Hey everyone, welcome back to yet another expert live session at AI Planet. To all the Marvel fans, there is a famous quote in Marvel you might have seen: with great power comes a great responsibility. Now, in this context, AI is a very powerful tool, and when you talk about very powerful tool, always there will also be responsibility that this particular tool has to perform. This is where all the businesses are trying to adapt AI, and the business ethic is always a question. And this is where we have responsible AI, which helps us to scale AI with very confidence. To give a short introduction about responsible AI, it's a practice of designing, developing, and developing AI with good intention to empower employees and businesses. And in order to get started, we have our expert with us. Please welcome Sarveshwaran Rajagopal, who is a specialist data scientist at LTI Mindtree. And for a while, he's been educating students in AI field. So let's welcome Sarvesh and we'll start with this session. Hi, Sarvesh. Thank you for
Hi, Tarun.
accepting the invitation.
Hi, Tarun. Hi, all. So let me share my screen. So, Tarun, please
Yeah.
confirm you're able to see the
Yeah.
screen.
I can see introduction to responsible AI. I can see the screen.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Right. So fantastic. So, welcome to the session, guys. So it's about the introduction to responsible AI, introduction to Langchain. So we wanted to see what is generative AI. So now we know the generative AI has been creating a lot of buzz in the market, and we all know what is generative AI. So we will see what is the implications of a generative AI. What is the generative AI at a high level, and what are the responsible AI? What are the steps that we should use the AI in a responsible way? Okay. So the agenda goes like this: what is a responsible AI? What are various principles of responsible AI? Benefits, threats, vulnerabilities, and prevention. And we'll also give an introduction: what is a Langchain, and importance of using an AI. Okay. So and I'll also give a quick code walkthrough if the time permits. So what's a generative AI? So according to the textbook definition, we can come like this: the generative AI is a class of artificial intelligence models that are capable of autonomously creating content. Right. So autonomously creating content is the only important thing that it's mandate to remember in the form of text, images, audio, video, and synthetic data. Right. So we have been using AI for a while. Right. So any new thing that comes in the market, we call it as an artificial intelligence. Right. 10 years back, if face recognition was there in the market, we would call it as an artificial intelligence, right? So now every smartphone has a face recognition. Your laptop has the face recognition. Your tab has the face recognition. Everything has an face recognition. Nobody gives a tab, right? So any new technology that comes in the market, we call it as an artificial intelligence. So what is a generative artificial intelligence? So we could classify it on high level, and model can be classified as a generative or a discriminative. Right? Generative is something when we generate new content from the knowledge that the model has. Discriminative is more of a classification or doing the prediction. Right? So here it's more about autonomously creating content. Right? So that's where it's a game changer, and it's also a multimodal AI. What's a multimodal? It can create it can create content in the form of text, images, audio, video, and it can also create a synthetic data. What's in synthetic data? For a machine learning model to train a lot of to train a model, we need a lot of training data. Right? So the training data is scarce in nature. Right? So to collect training data, we spend a lot of time. Right? So whether it could be in images or in cross-sectional data or whatsoever it is. So after this generative AI, we can create an artificial data. It's very easy to create a synthetic data which we can feed it to the model for a model training purpose. So what's generative AI? It gives us faster results, increased efficiency, improved original quality content, cost reduction, the increased customer satisfaction, and improved decision making. Right? So if you had seen some the content that's created from the mid journey, right? So it's astounding. Right? So the text are also relevant, pertinent to the use case. Right? So the crux here is the companies get more fresh ideas, right? So and concepts in terms of what they would have wanted. So it helps us to reduce the cost, the overall cost, like the operational cost, labor cost, the cost of creating any new content, right? So it could be either an image or videos, right? So it can also improve the customer satisfaction. So the higher customer satisfaction, more the business it is, right? So the I could narrow down to three important benefits. It can create, generate content and ideas, improve the efficiency and labor productivity, personalize the experience. Now, what day-to-day Gen AI can help us, right? Even before we move to what is responsible AI, it can it can help us in the education, explaining the concepts, summarizing the content, digging into a document, summarizing books, and making quizzes. Right. So, say for example, you upload a book, right, the complete textbook, and you can ask the generative AI to create and quiz questions for you, right? So, and it's for ease, and it's for free. Say for example, you take in Google Drive, you put on a textbook, your textbook, your semester's textbook, or any textbook from an author, and you can ask the Google Bard to create questions along with choices, and it can also give the right option for you, right? Within fraction of seconds, you can generate hundreds and hundreds of quiz questions. Summarizing books, sometimes you take foreign authors, it will be very difficult for you to understand, right? So if you're coming from a rural background, so understanding the foreign authors, it's very challenging. I have been also facing that challenge. So you take any research paper, the foreign author books, you put it in a Google Drive, and you start asking the questions, and you can ask explanation in a layman terms. It can explain the documents in a layman terms. Digging into a document, right? So you have a huge document, and you can ask any questions in the document. It can read the document, and it can answer the context from the document. Summarizing the context and explaining the concepts as well goes in there. Right, the content, you can write short essays, rewriting the text, right? So that's a fantastic thing, right? So you can rewrite in text. So for example, most of the time we may not given the right grammatical tense when we are writing the text or essays. We can use the generative AI, chat GPT, a Google Bard, a Cohere. So there are so many AI tools we can make to rewrite the content with fixing the grammar, right? So, and coming to the important another important thing, translating text, right? So you can translate the text from Spanish to English, Hindi to English, English to Hindi. It's on that also become an easy task. Getting in blog post ideas, if you're a busy professional and you want to write a lot of blogs each and every week, so this helps us a lot, right? So you can write and blog less than half an hour, right? So one day you wake up early or over the weekend you spare some time, you can create and blog, right? So it can create the visibility to the outside world as well. Creating social media captions, writing emails, right? So this it's been there has been survey, the top professional receive more the 100 200 emails each and every week, right? So they'll have to answer all the emails each and every week. They spend a lot of time writing an email, what to put there, how to write in a pleasing way, right? So if you start writing emails using this Gen AI, you can respond all the 100 200 emails within a fraction of seconds, right? So this writing email has been very much successful, right? So you can get subject suggestions, writing replies. You don't have to put so much of your mind in writing an email, right? So it's been a very simple task. An itinerary, right? So you plan for a trip, right? So you can you plan for a trip and you want an itinerary for 2 days or 3 days, right? So you ask chat GPT that you go for Darjeeling or Ooty or Kodaikanal. So you ask an itinerary, so it can actually give you with the timestamp what is the amount of time that you can spend there, and what are the that locations highlight things. And for fun, you can generate poems, make jokes. I think you all have explored by this time, so I'm just giving an gist of what generative AI can how generative AI can improve our day-to-day life. Coming to responsibly, the crux, the importance, and the agenda of the session. So what is responsibly? What are the challenge of using it responsibly? Right? So we are creating contents on our own. It's very important for us to understand how to conduct in a very responsible manner. Let's take for example, I've gone through one site. You can see for that matter.
Also, I guess there is a comment saying that the camera is not visible.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
it's fine.
All right.
Great.
So you can look at this, and you can animate your family photos. You can animate your photos, right? So basically, you upload any photo, and it can easily create an animation out of it. You can colorize the photo. You can enhance the photos. You can animate, and you can make any changes in this photo, right? So it will turn your eyes face to one direction, right? So any static image you load, and it's going to make some changes. Now we have uploaded our photos in Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, right? So whatever it is, so we have uploaded all our personal photos in various different websites. And now anybody can download your photo and create videos from your photos, and they can easily be misused without even our knowledge. If you go here, see, this guy has just uploaded his image, and it's automatically creating an animation out of it. Right? So these are some basic versions of it. Now you could also read to various different newspaper resources. The various different celebrities have been used the deep fake, and they have given some more videos, right? So so this is one important thing, right? So AI applications is a way that it is trustworthy, right, and in an ethical manner, right? So it lays in framework, right? So oh, it's going, isn't it? So when I share the screen, the camera is automatically going. Okay. So it's laying in framework or in predefined rules, right? So for when you want to regulate an AI practice, so it's important for today's world, to use the AI responsibly, right? So responsible AI is a set of practice with focus to design, develop, and deploy AI applications in a safe, trustworthy, and an ethical manner. Right? So you can see when I'm using AI, so biasness, less transparency, lack of accountability, interpretability, lack of privacy, lack of governance and regulation. Right? So fairness. What are the principles of the responsible AI? Right. So when I spoke about biasness, right? So these are written and developed by developers, who are in turn are humans, right? Say any human can have certain bias in their mind. It could be race, it could be gender, it could be caste, it could be creed, anything, right? So or even a nationality, right? So in developer who doesn't like a nation, right? So he may not have taken the training data from that nation to develop a model. There could be a developer who doesn't like a race. He could not have taken certain race in training and model. So it's after all and whom a human who have taken the data from various different places, and they have developed the model, right? So it could it could lead to so many different problems, right? So and less transparency we spoke about. So we want to have an transparent models, right? So so in research, so algorithm to come up with where they have to provide it, and they have created an healthcare risk management and risk management service. So the patients would provide an access to services like special trained nurses, and extra primary care visits, even monitored service, right? So this model had an racial discrimination. They have found that. And in research they have found that close to 50,000 research paper, the patients, 90% of the patients or the people were only white. Less than 60%, only 6,000 people or 10 percentage of the people were black. So the model itself is built on an biased data. So hence it is important to keep and check of the places, and we'll have to eliminate the biasness of completely. Less transparent. So what is the goal? What is the outcome? What are the risks associated with using each and every model? Right. So the scale in which this model is built is very high. right? So these results may be verifiable, otherwise it is difficult. This, I mean, whatever the results, whatever we are building it, it should be verifiable. Else it is very difficult, and it will lead to an less transparent, or an output of this model will not be correct. So that's the reason various different organizations have completely blocked some of the Gen AI tools, starting with Chat GPT, Google Bard, various different. So it's less transparent, and it's highly biased, and we don't know what is the and coming to the less third important point, lack of accountability. So the all the biases are interlinked, right? So like the dominoes, if you have biasness, it will become less transparent, and it is not going to be interpretable. Less accountability, so it will have layers and overlapping the parameters, and you need to check each and every level. Coming to interpretability, and interpret something, that is understand and what is the meaning of something. So we need to understand what is the parameters used, right? So since it is generative AI, this deep neural networks, which are difficult by itself, it's very important to understand and interpret how it is generated, right? So the generative AI models are normalized, so we lose the interpretability part. So this is the important part of using the generative AI in a responsible way. The privacy, right? So the violations that that leads to, that I'm having, those are leading to challenging responsibility. Right? So there is inside the clearview.ai, if you had seen, right? So it has broken laws, it has procuring publicly post of the pictures of citizens and their personal data. Right? So neither the platform were aware that they were their photo were being taken, and neither the person were aware that their personal information were taken. So this is creating a lot of data privacy violations, lack of governance and regulation. So if the AI practices are not following in governmental norms or regulation norms, so that is leading to a lot of compliance issues because of the AI, AI system. It's less trustable and less ethical. We feel to cater, any size of, any of the societal values as well, right? So we have two regulatory the requirements, right? So the two regulatory are GDPA, say for that example, the EU regulated for data, and CCPA, right? So it's GDPR, right? General Data Protection Regulation, whatever it is for EU, right? So and CCPA, US state laws, to protect and save rights for the California state. And coming to the principles of AI, right? So is it visible or not? My face.
Yes, it is visible. I
My
can see the
face.
principles. Yeah.
Oh, my okay. The webcam. Okay. I don't know. It's automatically going away. Okay. Now coming to the principles of responsibility: the fairness, accountability, reliability and safety, inclusiveness, transparency, and privacy and security. Right. So these are few different aspects we have discussed here as well. So why responsibility? Right? So we want to minimize the bias, right? So the bias is the important thing, right? So we want to use the AI responsibility by minimizing the bias, ensuring transparency, ensuring compliance and regulations. We follow the regulations by GDPA board and CCPA board, and across various different countries now they have their own AI laws, right? So we have to ensure the compliance and regulatory boards, we follow the regulatory board in a proper way. Mitigate risks, right? So mitigating risks is another important thing. Protect privacy and data security, right? So protecting privacy, like we mentioned, right? So we upload the photos, and we don't know what is the data security, right? So we should be very cautious when we upload various different photos, and the people also using photos from various different sites. Protecting privacy and data security, right? So for example, we upload our photos in various different cloud storages as well, the Google Photos, or iPhotos, iCloud, whatever it is. Say for example, Google Photos can automatically recognize all your images, right? So we don't know what is going behind the screen, right? So Using the data security and privacy is very important, right? So even though the Google has given some authority, and they have given some promises, we don't know, right? So it's very important that we stay cautious and uploading our photos everywhere, and it's important to follow all the rules and regulations, and these are the crux of using it responsibly. And the competitive advantage, nevertheless, to mention the competitive advantage in using it responsibly, the threats, the deep fakes, right? So this is very old example. This was even created in I think 2015 or 2013. Yeah, back then, the left one is actually the original, the right is actually in fake, right? So it's Obama's the presidential campaign. They have created some false campaigns, and they have been a source, and they were telecasting in various different mediums. So they have used in technology deep fake back in 2013, 2014, 2014. Right now, we look at the technologies, very different sites. Each and every day, every kith and kin can create a deep fake, and it's been very easy to create a deep fake. Now you can also remember and celebrity being used as a deep fake, and it was creating a lot of buzz, right? And the mass surveillance, right? So you look at each and every, where am I going, where am I traveling, anybody can if and government thinks they can survey, they can use the mass surveillance technique to track us, right? If right, so anybody can misuse it, right? So if there is a celebrity, or and the top notch the security professional, so they could use this mass surveillance, and they can easily find where that person is, right? They can easily tag, and they can find it. And there are a lot of potential advantages. We can find criminals, and the potential frauds, and anybody. But this could be also easily misused. Discrimination, this is one important thing. Like I mentioned, the AI models are created by humans, and that could easily lead to the discrimination. This discrimination fact is very, very important. This could create a lot of problems. Right? So, on jailbreaking, and we could easily jailbreak using the AI techniques, and we could misuse all the informations. Fake news bots, right? So creating a bot has become a child's play, right? So we can easily create an bot nowadays, and using this bot, anybody can create a fake news as if it is real, right? So earlier we were telling, when there is an fake the scamster sending in emails or something, we look for in grammatical senses, look for the tone of the email. And then there were some a few different aspects. Nowadays, using this Gen AI or any tools, they can write in professional emails, or they can use professional way of writing this false news, the fake news. They can spread information which is completely wrong for a political campaign, or about a celebrity or anyone, right? So any normal person, and they'll be vulnerable, right? So fake news bots, weapon automation, right? So this is a bigger topic. Weapon automation in AI, right? So anybody can create some weapons, and there's a wider topic, and there's a big study in this area. So using AI responsibly when we are creating weapon automation is very, very important. And vulnerabilities. No, five important. There are many different vulnerabilities. So I want to take five different vulnerabilities: prompt injection, data leakage, over reliance, insecure plugins, denial of service. Prompt injection. This could be classified into two types: direct prompt injection, indirect prompt injection. So what's in prompting? Right? So we all thought prompting, isn't it obvious? Right? So anybody you ask a question, and it's going to return me answer. Right? So but there is so much into prompting. That's where there is a separate branch in generative. We have started like prompt engineering. Right? So in that, there is a prompt injection. You could misuse the prompts, and you could find the large language models. You could slightly tune it, and you can find the informations, and this could lead a lot of problems: direct prompt injection, indirect prompt injection, or two different techniques in this prompt injection. Data leakages. So this could manipulate training data, improper filtering of data, unrestricted data access, lack of data scrubbing. Right? So the data leakage is very important. Right? So without using proper filters and manipulating the training data, so these are some problems or vulnerabilities in data leakage. Over reliance. Say for example, you load and big data. I mean big data as in like a huge document, and you're using in retrieval chain. When you're using a retrieval chain, you find that when you have tested a lot with a small document, and you are able to get the right answer. When you load a bigger document and you ask some questions and it's giving some false informations, right? So this is an hallucination problem, right? So the model is not promptly able to understand the complete document. This is hallucination. This is a bigger problem, right? So say even in chat gpt, you are working on problem statement, you keep on asking a lot of questions in a single chat, yeah, within one single subject. So it's all interrelated. You go back you scroll up to the first question, you ask something related to the first question again, it gives some junk answers. It is hallucinating. The memory is not sufficient, it's not able to link or connect the dots to the previous chains. No, the incorrect data, factually incorrect data. So you ask something and without any source, right? So it could give an information. We would believe that it is, it's actually correct information looking at the way that it is responding. So this could lead to an, factually incorrect data, illogical outputs. Right? So you ask some mathematical questions, right? So it would give an answer that's completely wrong. If you go back and correct the prompt in a slight way, if you give the chain of promptings and all, it could give a logical output, and it could even give a better output, right? So do not always believe the answers whatever the large language model is giving is correct. The source mix and over intelligence, right? So people start using this chat gpt or any different tools, and they're completely indulged, right? So they think that's everything, right? So whatever it is giving, it's the bible of the good thoughts, right? So they think that whatever it's generating is actually true, right? Not always, not at all, right? So we have seen various different places, even the code what is generating is not up to the mark, and it is leading to a lot of the problems. Insecure plugins, URL strings, the permitting SQL raw query, chain plugins, no distinct authorization, user check-in and authorization to authorize. So insecure plugins, right? So you take an URL strings and we could directly, you can scrape the data and you can find all the information. So this is an area. It's also creating a lot of buzz. Denial of service, continuous input overflow, repetitive long inputs, recursive context window, variable input length flood. So these four important points, right? So you continuously you keep on giving informations, and you're not giving any break to the model, right? So continuous input overflow, you should stop at a point, and you should either create a new chat, and you should break it down the input questions into fewer small questions, right? So this is a few different points that we should always remember when we're using a large language model. Just a moment. Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay, so yeah, we were here. So the continuous input overflow, the repetitive long strings, recursive context window, right? So right, so the prevention of large language models vulnerabilities. So how can we treat these five different aspects? prompt injection, right? So whenever you are giving any context or any questions, any prompts to the large language models, essentially we look for any filters to be placed in between, context based filters. So what is that we are asking, right? So you if you start placing some context, the filters, and by summarizing the prompts, so this will essentially not go and alter the native of the large language models. Input verification, the context based filters, update and fine tune the large language models. Not only keeping a check of the previous version, keep and check on the versions if there is any latest version, and we start using the latest version. And like our previous, the classical deep learning models or the machine learning models what we were having, fine tune the large language models, right? So even though we are not fine tuning anything as an end user, the large language the larger organizations, they are fine tuning. And if you're using it in large scale, you take the model, fine tune it for your own needs, and then start using. Monitor and log the large language models interactions. So whatever the end users, if you have taken a model and you have put that in production, monitor it and start logging it, right? So what are the information that's been asked, right? So start logging and you will find a lot of difference in it. Data leakage, how do we treat the data leakage? So by sanitizing the data, principle of least privilege, not everyone having the access to the data. By governing some, we start using the data governance or user policies, user awareness, right? So we bring a lot of changes here, and we start applying a lot of by implementing some policies. Not everyone can access the data. Over reliance, how can we get rid of this over reliance? So you ask some question and you get the output. Who is validating it? We should have a team or an specific person to validate the output at a high level. Do not rely completely on the large language models outputs. Verifying output is very important. Continuously monitor what the large language model is giving us. If it's continuously giving the erroneous report, stop using that model. Divide the tasks, risk communicate, secure the coding, safe UI and API, right? So easily if you're taking APIs, so it could be misled, right? So be cautious and verify the outputs, continuously monitor the outputs. Insecure plugins, parameterize the input, right? So if you are working in a large scale, if any organization, any models will be always parameterizing the input, will not share any the secured informations in actual code, right? So avoid chain plugins, least privilege access control, right? So this is one thing that we have seen earlier as well. Privilege, control the access, do not give the access. Privilege access is very important thing. Robust authentication, authentication is another important thing, right? So not everyone can use the APIs, not everyone can use the plugins right away, right? So if you start having a check on the authentication process, so that will also help us to get rid of the insecure plugins. Denial of service, cap request, API rate limits, and you monitor the large language model resource utilization, and spread awareness, right? So you can you have and request the cap request, right? So not so many if people start hitting this large language model in a higher number, uh, uh, delay it, right? So you can put some terms and conditions like not all the users will be permitted, and start having some caps in it, right? So API rate limits, right? So that is important thing. And when we take in large language to production, this large language model, unlike our machine learning models, it's bit expensive. Not bit, it's bit more expensive. So so it's very important to keep and check on the cost aspect as well. So the API rate limits, monitoring the large language model resource utilization. So these are very important thing here. Okay, so these are at a high level what how to use the AI responsibly. So any questions so far?
Yes, I'll probably add one question on the screen.
Yeah.
So there is one question. How is biasness fixed? Any metric to measure it?
Sorry, what is measured?
How is biasness fixed? Any metric to measure it?
So biasness, it's we don't have a metric, so we don't have a control in how the large language models have been built, right? So right, so okay, I don't know why the video is constantly going away. So say for example, this large language model has been built by huge organizations, right? So this biasness is with the organizations who are training the models as such. So when you're collecting the training data, so uh, and when you're training the model, so it's with the developer's hand, right? So if you ask me how to check it, we don't have a metric definitely to check the biasness in a large language model, and it's a very highly complicated. We don't even understand what is the architecture behind every large language model, right? Say we have the GPT model, the llama, nobody has given the architecture. We know the transformers has been used, we don't know how many layers are there, we don't know what is the architecture, nobody has given up the things for fine tuning at a larger scale. Right. So how biasness is fixed? It's with the organizations who is building the large language model to secure the data, the training data in a proper way, and then training it. That's what we could say.
Got it.
That's
Yeah, that's one question we have. And if in case you have more question, please do feel to add those questions. We'll take it up. Yeah, I'll probably add the screen again.
okay. Now, now let's start with the introduction to LangChain. So, what is LangChain and where does it start? And what is the um, where does it all start? And how are we taking it forward?
Hello, hello, Sarvesh.
Yeah. Hi. You're able to hear me?
Yeah, yeah. You were. There was a pause for a long time.
Oh, okay. Just give me 1 minute. My mic is creating some problem.
Yeah, sure, sure. Is it fixed? Yeah. So meanwhile, to those who are alive, so regarding this LangChain, if you look at our LLM bootcamp, we had LangChain on 2 days where we implemented end-to-end LLM framework. Like coming to LangChain, right? In LangChain, whenever you want to chat with your own data, ChatGPT is definitely great. Okay, Sarvesh is back, I guess.
Oh man, I sometimes this is creating. So okay, fine. You can complete it.
Okay, so usually I'll just tell you why you need LangChain. ChatGPT is definitely great, but there are few limitations. Like if you have your own data, how are you going to integrate your ChatGPT with this particular data? This is where LangChain comes in. It provides a chain architecture where you can build a chatbot like ChatGPT, but on your own data. So this is where we can use framework like LangChain, and I'll let Sarvesh to continue.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tarun, for covering up. Sorry, I don't know. Sometimes this creating problem. Okay, so what is this LangChain? So why it is one of the fastest growing AI tools of all time? So how could you use it for the projects? So these three things we'll see today. So in simple introduction I can give you here. So look at this. Lang refer to the language, right? So the chain refers to the chaining or connections of the large language models together. That is what is the Lang chain, right? So it's referring to any language, right? So I refers to any large language model assets, your GPT models, your Palm, your Llama 2, anything, right? So the chain is chaining or connection of the languages of the model together. It's a framework. So why is LangChain? So the LangChain is a tool that makes it very easy to build new applications using the existing AI models. Right? There is an AI model already. Right? So we are not going to develop any model as such. How am I going to create an application out of it? Right? So I can use an LangChain as a framework or a tool to create my own applications with ease. Right? So actually, a LangChain was built for people with limited knowledge in the AI field, so that literally anyone can build any new AI app. Right? So it was launched in October 2022, just before ChatGPT was released. Timing was literally perfect. Right? So if you go back and if you have watched the LangChain's, the founder, no, it was founded by this Harvard graduate, the Harrison Chase. Right? He is excited about AI just like everyone. Right? So it can, right? So if you want, to be more hyped about AI revolution, watch his interviews. It's amazing, right? So he's using the picks and shovel strategy, right? So when there was gold rush in 1800s, people who got the richest were not the people who are mining for gold, right? So it was the people who sold the picks and shovels. Right now, taking the technology to the current revolution, in this AI revolution, everyone wants to bring their build their own tool. This guy Harrison Chase has built a framework for people who are creating the tools to use. Right? So for me, he is one of the genius. It is one of the genius idea. Now, what I could say, right? So so it can read so many different document types, from PDF, CSV, Google Docs. If you go to the GitHub, it has crossed over 80,000 stars, right? So back then I checked at least 1.5 month back, right? So so many different, it is the fastest growing project ever, right? So when I checked back in back 1.5 months, it was valued close to 300 millions. It could be far higher than that right now. So let's pick business. Why is LangChain so huge? So what business problem do they solve? It solves the biggest problem. It is bridging the gap between the existing language models like the OpenAI, the Hugging Face, and any external data sources. So the benefits of the LangChain are its components, right? So it is having, the components, right? So it's easy to swap and customize. The speed, it's getting regularly updated. If you go to their website, what you have seen 1 month back, it's with the latest version, they have updated it with, and their website is also constantly updated with the proper documentation. And there's a huge community support, and there are frequent meetups in the discords, and they're conducting webinars of all the time. Therefore the LangChain allows you and me or any ordinary person use an advanced models like the GPT-4 or the Llama 2. It can help us to create advanced apps, like mobile apps, websites, services, or products and whatnot, right? So with LangChain, you can build your own version of ChatGPT, right? So it can create an own chatbot with your own data, right? Say for example, you are having an organizational data. Say for you are a professor, right? So you take uh, the textbooks of various different authors of a subject, and you load it, right? So and any questions that you want, you can get from the chatbot by reading and understanding the documents that you have loaded. Therefore, it's a chatbot for you, right? It's an own customized chatbot with your own data, right? So if you have documents from various sources, You want to train your own language model, with your own data. You can create your own chatbot, since it knows your own data. Right. As of now, the Chat GPT, the free version, cannot read documents. GPT Plus can read documents. Uh, right. So, however, you can build a model which can read your documents, and it can even answer. Read from it, answer from it. Now, even the Google's Bard can read documents from Google Drive, and it can answer. But if you want to create it as an application and you want to have your own chatbot, Langchain is helping you. Right. So it's kind of a framework. You can detach and attach any different models. Now today you want to use GPT-4, tomorrow you want to use any other models from Hugging Face, or you want to use from Llama 2. Right. So it can build and integrate, and it can create your own application. Right. So some applications include what, your chatbot, your text summarizations. Right. So all these things. Now, why do I need, right? So I can use all these things directly from OpenAI. Right. So if you were thinking, I can directly use from OpenAI. So OpenAI has a token limitation. So if you ask any single question, there is a token limitation. It has 4,000 tokens or 32,000 tokens as a limitation. Right. So that's not a very long document. What can we have with 4,000 tokens? Right. So assume one token is a kind of 1 to 1.5 word, or you take one word as a token. Right. So there are a bit more calculations to it. Just assume 4,000 words in a document. It's very small. It's not a long document at all. But if you use a LangChain, you can split it in your PC into very smaller parts. Right. You call it as in chunking. Right. So, and you can feed it to the GPT-4 or GPT 3.5 through LangChain, and it can summarize it for you. And or somebody else, which could be for anybody else, it could be an easy business idea itself. Right. It can also be a personal assistant in the Chrome extension. It can be in the resume matchers. Right. So anything. Right. So the different modules in the LangChain. Right. So the LangChain provides the standard extendable interfaces, the external integrations of the models, the model IO, the data connection, memory, chains, agents, and callbacks. I wanted to have a quick demo. uh, you know we are already 6:20, but I'll also show you where you can look at it, where I have taken the demo or the information as well. So this model IO, it's an interface with language models. What is this this the chains? The chains is to construct the sequence of calls. This retrievals, it's going to it's creating an interface between the application specific data. What is this agents? Agents, it's like let the chains uh, choose which tokens, which tools to use given in high level directives. Right. So going to the memory, it can persist application state between the runs of each and every chain. Callbacks, right? So log and stream the intermediate steps of any chains. So the core element of any language is the model applications, the model. Right. So the LangChain gives your prompts, language models, the output parsers. Right. So um, say for example, this prompts, again, this prompt itself is a bigger topic. Right. So it can template, it can dynamically select and manage model inputs, the language models. It can make calls to language models through the common interfaces. Right. So these are some things that we can use using the LangChains. These are the six important the modules of LangChain. Now the vector store, right? So there are various different vector store. The integrations are available. Now let's let me go to the site. I don't know for what matter. This video is constantly going away. Okay, now you go to the LangChain site. Right, so this is the LangChain site. Look at the step-by-step information. Right, so now they have also given few more modules as well. They've given Langsmith, Langserve, for deployment, for templates, for reference applications. Right, so they are The architecture is the main architecture is the Langchain community support, right? So you can see the level of documentation is at a low level, right? So it's very easy. Like I mentioned, the modules are the model IO retrieval agents, and we were asking about uh, the validation, right? So 1 minute, Langchain evaluator, right? So I can get that right away here. Right. So some questions always come up. How do I evaluate these models? Right. There are three important metrics in which we could evaluate this the outputs of this model: the string evaluators, trajectory evaluators, this comparison evaluators. Right. So these three evaluators can help us a lot in evaluating the model. Right. So and if you want to get started with, right, look at this. They have given the code right away. You go to the LangChain and click on these use cases: Q&A with RAG, SQL, tool use, CSV. They have given the complete code, right? Say for example, Q&A with RAG. You go here, they have explained you what is an RAG, what does an Q&A means, right? So how do I get the question and answer over the SQL data? Right, so you load, split and store. That is the only concept that I know what industry is using, right? So if you ask me what is the industry use cases with the top industry use cases with generative AI, it's the document question answering system, right? The text to SQL problem, right? So and you create your own chatbots. So these are two or three applications that's in the industry as of now with this this generative AI, right? So you understand what is a vector store, right? So for any beginners, you can see here uh, they have given the complete code as well. Yeah, you can see here. Yeah, they have given a quick start. Go through this step by step. What is that? Loading this data, split the data, store the data, right? So you take a document, you load it. Like I mentioned, you'll have to split the bigger document into small, you call it as in chunks, and you store it inside a vector database. For storing, you're going to use something called as in vector stores using an embedding techniques. If you have good aware with the NLP techniques, what's an embedding? You take an text is converted to a vector, right? So any model cannot use the text right away. It has to be converted with vectors. After this large language model has come up, we can use the semantics in this text and we can store that in the vector store. What is the semantics? The grammatical sense of each and every sentence can be understood and it could be stored inside a vector store. Retrieval. So you have taken the data, loaded it, split it, and you have stored it, and you want to retrieve it with and retrieval. That's where your RAG comes in. There are various different retrievers nowadays. Even keyword based retriever from and latest Microsoft's research paper, right? And you can generate the chart models on LLM, right? So this is an fantastic way to get started with, right? So even the demo whatever I have prepared, I've taken the sources from here, right? So right here it is. So I wanted to get started from here and I want to show you what how to create, how to load the data, retrieve the data. This complete walk away in half an hour is it's a bit difficult, but that's how it is, right? So I wanted to show you from here what is LangChain, what is a Langsmith, right? So this is a good place to start it with, and it's good and worth exploring, right? So I would urge, just blindly take this, copy paste it and run it. If you're worried how can I get an the token, open AI token, create a new mail ID, right? So you get $5 for 90 days, right? So you can sign that using the OpenAI website. You can start using for that $5. And if you can also download llama 2, but running it in your local may be a bit challenging. The llama 2, it's 7 billion, it's big, larger data, but you can start using with OpenAI. It's a fantastic place to start with. Right, so I know we are running on top of her. Now let's open the room for bit discussion. Oh, I don't know. This video is getting stuck.
Yeah, I guess OpenAI doesn't provide free credits anymore. So
But
even No, I
But
guess it's been stopped. Like it's been around 3 to 4 months now.
if
So
you create
people
with
can still use it.
new email ID, you'll get $5. It
I don't
was,
think so. It's been paused now.
um. Are you sure? Because
Yeah, we have tried it. Like
uh,
during the LLM bootcamp which we organized, many people we did try it.
no. I just used it just before the session as well. I was able to get some free credits.
Okay, not sure.
I just used one Gmail ID and I just opened it. Maybe let me, but I got that $5.
Okay, so we have a question. For production, do I need to pick Llama Index or iStack or Langchain?
For production, I think any one of this is doing a fantastic job. Langchain has come up with the Lang Serb that is also new and it's also doing a good job. Uh, you know, every different framework has been run on hit and they are constantly updating. Langchain is doing a fantastic job. Even Llama Index is good. But if you ask me with what context, that will be a bit helpful. But if you want to go for production, both this Llama Index and Langchain both are doing. Haystack, I've not used it. Langchain and Llama Index both are good.
Sorry, I am on mute. So yeah, folks, if you have any more question, do let us know. And until then, do you want to go for a code walkthrough for last 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes? Uh, Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
Are you sharing the screen? Yeah.
Okay, you want me to go through?
Yeah. If we can have one last 5 minutes, we'll just go the components that we are using. Yeah, I can see intro to Langchain session.
Okay. Now let's, yeah, coming down here. Okay. Yes. Right. So we can start with model IO. Like I mentioned, this is the core. Right. So this is the core, and it starts with the prompts. Right. So this Langchain is giving the prompt templates, and it's also giving some example selectors. Right. So the it's going to give and format like this: x is equal to foo and y is equal to bar, right? So does x like y? You can parameterize and you can send it, right? You can have a format, and LLM, along with the chat model, it can do the prediction, it can parse it, and it can pass it to the large language model. So say for example like this, right? So this prompt template from template, right? So tell me an, right? So some adjective, right? Joke about, and and continuation, right? So I can format it, right? So what is that? I want to add the adjective, and about what is the context that I want to speak, right? So I can use something like this to create and format the prompt, and I can parameterize in the front end, and I can collect the data, parameterize, and I can send it to the large language models. And another example is here: how to parameterize, or how can I create the prompt template. Right? The prompt template is the, I'm going to give an input variable and the template like this, right? So and I can change, it's about the cuisine and what kind of food it is, right? So either it is uh, a Mexican food, or the Italian, Indian. So I can you can give an input variable regarding what it is, right? So and I can parameterize it. So it's about the prompt templates. I mean, it's about the prompts. Now let's get into the prompt templates here. So this prompt templates of four different types: system, human, AI, right? So you can give what is the system prompt and what is the human prompt, and what AI could respond, and for that, what is the human's user input, right? So you can give what is the name and what is the user input, right? So this is how you are going to give prompts. The prompt templates, how are you going to give the prompts to the model? Large language models. This is a LLMs. We all know the large language model, which takes a string as an input and returns as a string. Now, since now we'll see only the text here, right? So this is the basic. You ask some question and it's going to respond. Now, what is this chat model? Right. So this chat model, it's a list of chat messages. Right. So it is going to have and content. Right. So what is the content and what is the role to it? Right. So and content, what is it about? And what is the role that you want the LLM to play? Right. So if you come down here, um, one minute. So you're going to ask what would be the good company name for a company that makes in colorful socks. You're asking, and you can get the human message and what is the context and the content for this text, and it can predict for what we want. Right. So, and coming to the chat messages, like I mentioned, it is of four different types: the system message, the human message, a message, and the function message. Right. The system message, which is giving the instructions to the AI itself. This human message, it's like the messages that is it is to represent the human, right? So when you are going to type something, it's the human message. Whatever the incoming message that we receive from the AI, it's called as the AI message. The function message is like in function call whatever that we want to have, right? So for logging something that we want to have, we can have it. Right. So the system message, say for example, you are an helpful assistant that translate English to French. I love programming. Right. So you pass this, and you may get some output from here. Right. So pass multiple messages with the system message and the human message here. Right. So yeah. So it could play in role of a system message and human message by or by giving some few short examples. And we have the output parsers, right? So the format in which we want, right? So we could have a list parser. Any message that we want to have it in terms of a list, we can use the list parser. The output parser can be used when you want to return a list of a comma separated values, right? So you want to have it in terms of a list, you can use a list parser, right? So for example, you given template. So the list 5, you have parameterized the subject and the format instruction, and you ask to open a, and you get what is the different ice cream flavors, right? So parameter the prompt dot format. So and then you get various different formats that you can ask, that you have asked to the model, right? The template list 5. What is the instruction? The format instructions, right? So the format instructions are like this. Okay. And the datetime parser, the output parser, that we want to get in terms of the datetime format, right? So we can use in datetime parsers. So these are the different the parsers here.
Uh, is that it, or do we have anything else?
No, yeah, yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
here it is. Yeah, so it's about the parsers, the way in which we can get it. Yeah, so I wanted to show by typing it, so I think it's going long. Yeah, so maybe I could share this and we can do it.
Yeah, I guess we'll be sharing the notebook. So once the notebook is shared, we'll be sharing out a newsletter where you can access the particular quick start guide to Langchain. And thank you again. Thank you, Sarvesh, for joining in and patiently explaining what is responsible AI and we had very few insightful session on what are the vulnerabilities with LLMs and how we can avoid the biasness, and few roadmap which we spoke about that we can avoid when we are building any AI application. And do you have any closing thoughts before we can end this session?
So the closing thoughts would go like this. So see, the A is everywhere, right? So there are two things to say, right? So consistent upgrading of our knowledge is very important, not relying too much on AI tools, right? So nowadays I see various different students could have also been joined. Don't think AI is everything and they're going to change this entire world, right? So we are very far, we are very very far from it, like AI is going to take over this entire world, right? So we call about the artificial general intelligence. So, it's very far away from the reality, right? So consistently update yourself along with your domain knowledges, right? So don't rely too much on these AI tools, right? So maybe you start creating an AI app, but don't rely too much on this AI. I see a lot of freshers using AI tool for everything, right? So for exams, everything, right? So I could say don't rely too much, and whatever the AI tools is responding is not always correct. Okay, so that's one thing I would say. And start creating some application. You can start this Langchain as an and starting point where the documentation is fantastic. You can use that and you can create some fantastic AI applications, right? So it's like we cannot complain I don't have resources. Now we have everything, right? So that's what I could say.
Great. Thanks again. Thanks for joining in. And it was quite an insightful session. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. And would you like to share your LinkedIn profile so that I can attach on the screen?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, I guess I got it.
Okay.
Yeah, folks, if in case you have any more questions or queries related to data science or responsible AI, I have attached Sarveshwaran's profile ID of LinkedIn. So please do reach out to him and you can ask all your question. And until then, happy learning. We'll come back with new expert live session in the February month. Thanks everyone for joining in. Thanks again, Sarvesh, for accepting the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you.